I'm making this video about these batteries we bought from Alibaba.com. They're sold by Docan technology in Shenzhen. We purchased them for our Apex DIY box kit for the battery bank. So I'm going to open this box and I'll show you what we're having an issue with. We're having an issue with the studs on them are breaking when we're trying to tighten them in the battery bank. So these are brand new. I will be testing them with a digital torque wrench. They want them tightened to 7 Newton meters. $9.7. For these bolts, the average torque spec is 9.6 Newton meters. 15.5. 8.0. So you can see the discrepancy between the studs are very different, and you can barely see any welding done on the actual studs itself, and on the back they're basically just melted. We've purchased about 100 of these batteries, and they have all basically broken around the 7 Newton meters, and we couldn't use them in our DIY boxes. Today we're testing the batteries that we purchased from Alibaba.com. They were sold by Docan Technologies. We bought them for our Apex DIY box kit, and we're having issues with the studs. So this is a brand new box. I'm going to open and show the issue we're having. We're having an issue with the studs on the batteries. They're not holding. They're not allowing us to torque the batteries to spec into our DIY boxes. So we have a digital torque wrench here, and we're going to test each of them to see how much pressure we can put. So they ask for 7 Newton meters, 7.9, to torque it. But these are M6 bolts, and the average torque spec for them is 9.6 Newton meters. But as you can see, they're barely getting up to the torque spec. 15.6. And how inconsistent the welding of the studs are. Some of them are much higher, some of them are very low. So when we try to put these in our battery packs, they are breaking constantly. Today I'm making a video discussing the batteries that we purchased from Alibaba.com. They're sold by Docan Technologies. We purchased them from Jenny Wu. So this is a brand new box. I'm going to open and show what we're having an issue with. So these studs are breaking off very easily when we try to install them into our battery bank. The torque spec that they gave us for these batteries is 7 Newton meters. The torque spec for an M6 bolt which is what these studs are, is 9.6 Newton meters. We've been getting between 6 Newton meters and 10 Newton meters per stud. So we'll test these ones and show you what we are getting. So I have my digital torque wrench here. So we'll see what we get. So this one got 8.8. $14.9. 8.2. 8.5. So I'm making this video to show some batteries that we purchased off Alibaba. We purchased them from Docan Technologies from Shenzhen. We purchased them for the Apex DIY box kit, the battery bank, and we're having issues with the studs not being welded properly onto the batteries. So I'm going to go through them and we'll take a look and see when they break. So the batteries are supposed to be tightened in the battery bank to 7 Newton meters. We've been having a lot of inconsistency with the batteries. So that was 13, that was 10. That was 18. 19. 9. So for a M6 bolt, 7. You're supposed to be able, the maximum torque is 9.6 Newton meters. 8. 10. 8. So you can see how very inconsistent they are. You can see the welding on the actual stud. There's no penetration, and the actual bolt itself is just melted. It's not penetrated onto the actual part. There's slight welding around the edges, but everything else is. So today we're going to be going through these batteries that we purchased from Alibaba. They're sold by Docan Technology in Shenzhen. We ordered them for our Apex DIY box kit, the battery pack, and we're having issues with the studs on them breaking off. So the manual says the studs should be tightened to 7 Newton meters. The maximum tightness they can go, or they should be able to go, is 9 Newton meters. But we're having issues with the inconsistency of the welding. of the studs. So that one's 3.9. You can see on the studs, there's barely any welding happening. There's barely any penetration. And on the actual studs, it just looks slightly melted and not fused to any of the battery terminals. Today we'll be showing an issue we're having with these batteries. We purchased from Alibaba.com from Docan Technology in Shenzhen. We purchased them for Apex DIY box kit, and we're having issues with the studs not being welded properly. So I'll go through each of these studs and you'll see how inconsistent and poorly welded they are. So these studs are supposed to be torqued to 7 Newton meters, and they are very inconsistently welded. So some of them are tightening to higher, some of them are not as high. For this size bolt, the average torque spec should be about 9.6 Newton meters. But you can see the inconsistency between each battery is very different. We're going from over 12, 13 Newton meters to 5, like this battery here. And you can see on the nuts themselves, there's barely any marking of welding, and these are barely welded at all. This is a video testing the studs on these batteries we purchased from Alibaba.com. They're sold by Docan Technologies. They're for the Apex DIY box kit. When we're tightening them on into the battery bank, we're having issues with the studs not holding the torque correctly. So I'm going to use a digital torque wrench here, and we're going to test and show you what the torque is for the studs. 14, 9.5, 7.5, 5.5. So the average torque spec, or the torque spec that they asked for, is 7 Newton meters. But the torque spec for this size bolt should be 9.6 Newton meters. And you can see how inconsistent the bolts are. Some of them are welded pretty good, and some of them are barely welded at all. And you can see that the welding of the nuts are not very good. it doesn't seem to be welded properly. Today we're testing the batteries that we purchased from Alibaba.com. They were sold by Docan Technologies. We bought them for our Apex DIY box kit, and we're having issues with the studs. So this is a brand new box. I'm going to open and show the issue we're having. We're having an issue with the studs on the batteries. They're not holding. They're not allowing us to torque the batteries to spec into our DIY boxes. So we have a digital torque wrench here, and we're going to test each of them to see how much pressure we can put. So they ask for 7 Newton meters, 7.9, to torque it. But these are M6 bolts, and the average torque spec for them is 9.6 Newton meters. But as you can see, they're barely getting up to the torque spec. 15.6. And how inconsistent the welding of the studs are. Some of them are much higher, some of them are very low. So when we try to put these in our battery packs, they are breaking constantly. Okay, so this is more testing of the Alibaba batteries that we got from Docan Technology in Shenzhen. So we're going to test, we have 4 of them in a row here, so we're going to test them out and see how they work. So this torque wrench is testing how many Newton meters it takes to break the studs. So that one is 8. $7.9. 8. 6.2. 6.2. 6.9. 13.9. 14.